Chapter 21. Catching Up with the Maternal Family. When Joseph opens his eyes, the first thing he noticed is the ceiling that he was oh so familiar with for these past months, every day after or whenever he opens his eyes. He's at the vampire's castle, and yesterday's event passed through his mind like a movie. Joseph controlled his breathing in case there's someone close to him and took a glance around the room. He tried to look as much as he could as he was lying down, and when he deemed the room lack of vampires, he sat up slowly. But just as he sat up, the door flew open. He flinched and his dagger appeared in his hand out of nowhere. The person, a quite old woman, raised both her hands up as he pointed his dagger at her.
"Who are you? Why did you bring me here?"
Joseph snarled. Despite the threat, the woman cried. Joseph was taken aback. The dagger in his hand wavered slightly. Did he came out too hard? "You look so much like her," the woman said as she wiped her tears with her sleeves. Joseph's brow furrowed.
"What the what? You're not making any sense, lady."
The woman smiled and took a step forward, and Joseph raised his dagger again.
"Not another step, lady."
And again the woman ignored his threat and took more steps towards him. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe." Joseph scoffed then.
"Safe my ass. I know where I am, and it's anything but safe here."
Joseph glared as the woman gave him a sad look. "Mum?" They both turned and saw Adriana standing at the door, and Joseph growled. He wielded his other dagger in his other empty hand and pointed at Adriana. The woman gasped as she took in the magic show he just presented. "Sherlyn had always wanted to do that." Joseph growled when she said that name.
"How do you know that name?"
The woman smiled, melancholic. "I knew Sherlyn since she was a babe. Sherlyn was a cute little babe with the brightest eyes and fiery hair. Sherlyn—"
"Stop saying her name. You have no rights to speak of that name."
Joseph snarled, eyes glowing indigo.
"You were the one that killed her, the ones that made me motherless since I was 5.
The woman cried, and Adriana that was behind her sucked in her breath.
And for what? Because she mated with a wolf? Because she gave birth to a hybrid?"
Joseph laughed humorlessly at their lack of reply.
"Can't answer me, can you? You're all cold-blooded."
Adriana flinched. "Did you know how I felt then?" The woman spoke up suddenly, tears streaming down her face.
"You have feelings? Wow, I didn't know."
That was too harsh, but Joseph was fuming then and can't really control his sarcastic mouth. The woman ignored her and walked closer to the bed. "How helpless I was standing with the bystander to watch my daughter being executed publicly, as a reminder to think twice before making a decision." Joseph looked at her dead in the eyes as he chuckled.
"I don't believe you."
The woman touched his arm and he flinched away. "Joseph, your mother was my daughter. You're my grandson." Joseph backed away.
"You're not. No mother will let their children die. Not on her watch."
He snarled as he remembered his own mother had took a bite meant for him from a stray mountain lion when they had traveled up the mountain that one time as a family trip. "I had no choice." The woman, his grandmother, sobbed, heartbroken.
"You always have a choice. It just depends on whether you have the will execute it."
"Joseph." The woman reached out to touch him, but Joseph dodged away as he stood up quickly from the bed. But he didn't expect the vertigo to hit him so sudden and so strongly as he swayed on his feet. The woman, now identified as Queen Themia, reached out to catch him, but another set of arms were faster. The newly arrived person caught Joseph before he touched the ground head first. When Joseph opened his eyes, he was met with the handsome face of his mate. He stared into his eyes before he shook himself out of his trance, remembering he's the enemy despite being his mate, and pushed him away. They both fell to the ground with a thud. When Ryu tried to get closer to him, Joseph just scooted back, too tired to stand. His dagger reappeared in his hands after it fell out of his hand when he stood up.
"Stay back."
Ryu, sad eyes and all, tried to creep closer.
"I said, stay back."
Joseph growled. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Queen Themia, Adriana, and Lysiani all closing in. Feeling cornered, his instinct took over and he shifted. The sound of ripping clothes and bone cracking was heard, and soon it was replaced by low growling from the red wolf with indigo eyes. They all took a step back except for Ryu, who took a step closer. Joseph's ears flattened as he snarled at him. Ryu stretched out a hand, and without thinking, Joseph bit it. Ryu didn't flinch, but he did grimace at the sharp teeth latched onto his hand. Lysiani was going to interfere, but Adriana stopped him, motioning him to look. Ryu reached out his other hand slowly. He stopped and showed his empty hand when Joseph's eyes darted to it and growled lowly. He ever so slowly placed it on Joseph's snout and patted it.
It's okay, Joseph. No one's going to harm you here. We're different from the others. We're family.
Joseph's eyes darted to the other people in the room before it sets on Ryu's warm eyes.
You're safe.
Joseph whimpered, and the pressure on Ryu's hand loosened, and the sound of bone cracking was heard. Ryu grabbed the blanket with his good hand and pulled it down and over Joseph's nakedness. Then he felt warm hands held onto his bloody and cold hand gently, and warm tears dripping onto it, stinging his wound, but he didn't pull away. He looked down and saw Joseph bowed his head over it while continuously saying,
I'm sorry.
Ryu smiled slightly and run his fingers through Joseph's hair, replying with his own,
It's okay.
They heard the door opened and closed, but they both ignored it in favor of enjoying each other's presence without fighting. Joseph blushed hardly when he took in the mess of the bandage around Ryu's wounded hand. Ryu chuckled and rearranged it.
Sorry. I can't patch myself up even to save myself, let alone patching someone else.
Joseph said sheepishly. Ryu smiled and patted Joseph's hair. Joseph frowned and swatted it away. Ryu laughed.
It's okay. It took me years and years of practice before I got it right.
He waved his hand as evidence. Neat and tightly around his hand, nothing like Joseph's sloppy one. Joseph didn't know why, but he grabbed the hand gently and laced a kiss on it. He looked down at his crossed leg with a flaming face. When he took a peek, he saw Ryu's face brighten with happiness. His eyes were practically sparkling. Lost in Ryu's eyes, he didn't see the hand reaching towards him and pulled. Joseph yelped as he was pulled into Ryu's lap, facing him. Joseph's face blushed darker as Ryu simply looked down at him with a bright smile and arms wrapped around his waist. It was then that Joseph realized just how smaller he was compared to Ryu's superior size. It's not like Ryu was bulky with hard muscle like Joseph's father and some of the werewolves he had seen in the Shadow Moon Pack. Ryu was lean and way taller than him, even now when they're seated. But he ain't a skinny man, though, from the abs he was now touching innocently when he was pulled into Ryu's lap. He's just lean. Joseph was too embarrassed and was getting shy from how much Ryu was staring at him with this position, so Joseph ducked his head into Ryu's shoulder and sighed. Ryu just laughed. The others were waiting in another room when the door opened, and in walked Ryu and Joseph hand in hand. Joseph took a look at the occupants in the room and hesitated to go in, but with an assuring smile and a gentle tuck from Ryu, Joseph sighed and went in. But he sat as far away as he could from the others, Ryu following. There was a pregnant silence before Joseph spoke up first.
What was my mother like when she was young?
Queen Themia smiled. Fierce and very hot-headed. Then she smiled at Joseph softly. Very much like you, apparently. Joseph can't help the small upward tilt of the corner of his lips. Then it fell.
Where am I? This place feels different, but we're still in the castle, aren't we?
Joseph said as he looked around and out the window. Lysiani's lips lift at that.
Observant. Indeed, we're still in the castle, but this part of the wing was hidden from the others, even from the king. Wicked.
Joseph whispered as he took in the room.
Who made it?
Sherlyn, Adriana said as she poured some tea.
Oh.
It's her power. She can expand an area or shrink it without changing the outside view. What you're in is just an expansion of her closet. If you exit this place, you'll be her old room, coming out from a closet. Adriana finished and pushed the teacup towards Joseph's way. Mum charmed the room, so no one will know of this place except for the people we trust. Her power is magic. I know a weird way to explain it, since all of this is magic, Adriana added when she saw Joseph's frown. But she can basically do what wizards and witches do. Charm, brew, and all that shit. Joseph nodded before he willed the cup of tea on the coffee table far away to his hands, since he was too lazy. Queen Themia's eyes sparkled at his power. Sherlyn had always wanted that power. Joseph raised one of his brow.
What?
Teleportation. She was lazy girl and had always whined about things being too far away. She had hope her offspring will have that power so they can teleport stuff to her.
Well, she got her wish.
Joseph smiled softly.
So, do all of the vampire have power, or?
Lysiani shook his head.
Only the royals have the privilege, so only the person on the throne and all of us here have powers.
Joseph looked at Ryu. Ryu grinned down at Joseph, his arms around his shoulder.
I'm from the royal family of vampires from the East, cousin of the East Vampire King, Prince Ryunosuke at your service.
Ryu said and winked at Joseph. Joseph blushed and hid it behind the teacup. The others chuckled.
Ah, so not so different from the Wolf Royals then.
Joseph mused.
Oh?
Damn, he forgot about the enhanced hearing. Joseph cleared his throat as he looked at the people in the room. Queen Themia smiled softly. We're not going to reveal anything you say to the king, nor anyone else. What's said here will never go out. Joseph sighed.
It is said that the royal werewolves, direct descendants of the first ever werewolves, will receive the powers they received from the moon goddess. For instance,
Joseph embraced the familiar tug of his gut as a beautiful white gardenia sprout from the wooden arms rest of Queen Themia's seat, until it was fully bloom and spreading its wonderful scent.
the red wolves, my paternal side of the family, had a close bond with flora and fauna. The white wolves, one of the East Royal pack, had control over ice and snow, the other, East Royal. The black wolves had the opposite power than the other. The black wolves had control over the heat and blazing fires. The last pack, the golden wolves, had charm speaking. They can trick a person to give up their whole fortune by just asking.
Queen Themia smiled and plucked the gardenia and sent Joseph a smile.
So that's that.
Joseph blushed. After that, they continued to converse on Joseph's past and the memories they have of Cherlin, but Queen Themia had to leave after a while for her royal duty as the queen. When Queen Themia was out of hearing range, Joseph asked the question burning in the corner of his mind.
Why didn't you save her? You could have done something.
They all looked guilty down.
We couldn't if we wanted. The king has full power, and what's four of us against a kingdom?
Lysiani said, guilt burning him and helplessness as he stared at his clutched hand. Joseph took a sip from his cup calmly.
That's what's different with you vamps and the wolves. They aren't afraid to protect what's precious to them, even if it means they'll die trying,
He said as he looked dead at Lysiani's eyes. From that gaze, Lysiani could feel the way his sister used to look at him with when she was scolding him. Lysiani smiled.
Perhaps that's the only thing I admired about the wolves.
Just then, they heard the front door, the closet door, broke down, and there was sound of knives unsheathing and the cocking of a gun. You bastards! Give us back Joseph! When he saw Bethany and Sebastian armed to the teeth, storming into the room, Ryu can't help but agree with Joseph's statement as they looked ready to hail knives and bullets on the ones that took away their baby cousin.